Now, again, I keep asking, man, has the Democratic Party establishment learned their lesson from this election, from getting crushed by Donald Trump? And again, the answer is, unfortunately, no. They have not learned anything. Already, the Democratic establishment and the media, and their media lackeys, essentially, they're looking at 2020. And again, it seems like they're already looking to make the same fucking mistake that they already made in 2016. Now, this is evidenced by a new Washington Post article by Chris Cillizza. Now, that basically looks at who in the Democratic ranks could make a good person to run for office in 2020. So, now, get a load of who's on this list. Number one, no surprise, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Let me just face palm a couple more times, man. Cory Booker. Look, the Washington Post cites him as a likely frontrunner for the Democratic 2020 primaries. And why? Well, it's because they explain he is a lot like Obama. Oh, well, yeah, in ways that we didn't like Obama, like, for example, very, very close to the banks. Now, Cillizza explains, many Democrats see the young, charismatic African-American U.S. Senator from New Jersey as the second coming of Obama. Now, just like Obama, as I mentioned, Wall Street loves him. He raises all sorts of money from the banks, from the bankers, from Wall Street, financial institutions, and giant multinational corporations. They love Cory Booker. They also loved Obama, of course. Now, not only that, right, but Booker also served on the board of an anti-union, pro-charter school education organization, Alliance for School, with Trump's pick for Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. Now, I did a breakdown on Betsy DeVos. Turns out I didn't like her very much, and I didn't like her education standards very much. So there we go on that. Now, also, Cory Booker shared 74 of the same wealthy donors in 2014 as a Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Now, isn't that strange how Chris Cillizza leaves that out? I thought it was kind of strange. Because as you'll see, fundraising happens to be a theme here. Now, here's the next pick, Kirsten Gillibrand. Right. Now, Kirsten Gillibrand, as Cillizza writes, may be the most logical heir to Clinton in the 2020 field, but it remains to be seen whether or not that's a good thing. Well, maybe that's shows that she's got a little bit of, or that Chris has a little bit of self-awareness, like, I don't know. She's a lot like Clinton. I wonder if that's a bad thing. Well, considering how Clinton's a loser, yes, she won, 2.3 million more votes than Donald Trump. She didn't win them where it counts. So, loser. Didn't win. A lot like Clinton, who was... Look, this election should have been a slam dunk for the Democrats. But it was not a slam dunk. It was way too close. Okay? Way, way too close. And as I said, Donald Trump ended up getting more votes in the states that mattered, despite having less votes overall. But anyway. Now, as I said, as far as being like Clinton, Gillibrand, no, that is not a good thing. That is a bad thing. She even kind of looks like Hillary Clinton. Now, when Obama chose Clinton to be Secretary of State, Gillibrand, Cillizza writes, was appointed to her Senate seat in New York and then won 2 subsequent elections to hold the seat. Thanks to, and I quote, rock star level fundraising. Again, look at the theme here. It's about the money. Of course it's about the money. Now, she is a likely pick simply because she knows how to beg corporations and the banks for money. And that's pretty much her only feature that makes her a good establishment pick. I mean, that's what they look for in establishment pick. Are you kind of a weak corporatist Dem? Great, we'll give you all sorts of money. Here you go. Get elected and then capitulate to Republicans. That's what they do. That's what happens. Now, finally, according to the New York Post, Gillibrand is also feeling out some of the Clinton's major donors about what comes next for the Democratic Party. And look, they don't get it. They really don't. They think if we just get someone else who's as establishment as Hillary Clinton, but not Hillary Clinton, so they can raise more money, we will end up winning. But that's not why Hillary Clinton lost. Hillary Clinton lost because she was the establishment, not because she was Hillary Clinton. You put up any other corporate Democrat against a populist right-winger, then it's very likely that they would also lose because people are tired of the establishment. People voted for Trump. A good portion of Trump supporters only voted for him to throw a brick through the window of the establishment, to drain the swamp. Now, of course, Donald Trump is a con man. He never intended to drain the swamp. So, look, it's swampier than ever. And look, I'll get into that in other videos. But as I said, you can't, this doesn't work like that anymore in Washington. You can't just sit there and raise money and win anymore. It used to be, see, the way that it worked is that you raised a bunch of money and then you spent it on television ads. Well, this was back before the internet, or back before it really became popular and you actually started getting your news online. Corporate media would pay for these would get paid for these ads through these political donations, and then that's all you'd hear about is candidate X. Well, there's other candidates in the field, but you never hear about them because they don't have the money. Now it's different. Money does not equal winning anymore. So, but anyway, now next on the list, you have newly elected California Representative Kamala Harris. Now again, here's the focus on the money. Harris represents the largest and most democratic state in the country, a huge financial launch pad to a presidential bid. Now, again, as I said, this is the theme. Now, you also have, strangely enough, Amy Klobuchar, who is a little bit more progressive than some of her more centrist counterparts. Now, he writes, like Gillibrand, Klobuchar is an accomplished and ambitious senator who cuts the sort of profile that should put her in the mix for 2020. However, unlike Gillibrand, Klobuchar represents Minnesota, not exactly a fundraising hotbed for a national candidate. And now, look, basically, I mean, yeah, sure, she's kind of progressive, maybe a little bit. Would be kind of a decent pick, but come on, man, Minnesota? Can't really raise a lot of money in Minnesota, let me tell you. And look, back to why Hillary lost. Look, I have talked about the voter suppression, and that's a very, very real thing, and that affects close elections. But the whole thing is, it should have been a complete slam dunk. It should have been a blowout, voter suppression or not. And yes, there was voter suppression, hands down. The cross-check system did purge millions of minority voters. I don't discount that or dispute that at all. But I'm saying that even without that, it still would have been way too close in the places that matter. And she was a bad candidate, and the Republicans had their dirty tricks, and those combined to make a Trump victory, even though Donald Trump did lose the popular vote. But anyway, now there's one more big one on this list, and that is Michelle Obama. Now, Celissa writes, Obama has one thing, with the possible exception of Cory Booker, that the rest of the people on this list lack. True star power. She would start the race not only totally known by base Democrats, but also absolutely beloved. Beloved. Okay. Look, here's the thing. This right here is maddening. This whole thing, this whole list. Here they are. Look, they're looking at 2020 after the most crushing defeat and thinking, we need to find someone to challenge Donald Trump in 2020. So who are we going to challenge him? Well, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. What are we looking for in a challenger? Well, we're looking for somebody who's got star power, and we're looking at somebody who can beg corporations for money. That's strange because Hillary Clinton seemed to have had both of those things. Hillary Clinton outraised Donald Trump, hands down. And she was also incredibly well known. You'd have to dig down, and look under a lot of rocks to find somebody who's never heard of Hillary Clinton. And let's be fair, a lot of people heard of Donald Trump too. It's not exactly like he wasn't well known either. But here's the other thing, right? Bernie Sanders, think about him. Think about where he came from. A very little known senator from Vermont. In the primary, caught up to Hillary Clinton's nearly 60-point lead. Now, Bernie Sanders didn't win, but he got goddamn close. Despite Hillary having the entire establishment behind her, all the money, and all the star power that she could muster. She also had Obama campaigning for her. She had Katy Perry campaigning for her. All these different people, celebrities. And she still barely won this primary. So, and then, of course, she loses to Donald Trump. There we go. So, what I'm trying to say is that money and star power, they don't mean as much as the people in Washington think. I'm not saying that they're irrelevant. No, far from it. I think money still has way more outsized influence in politics, but it has more of that effect in local politics than it has in national politics, where basically you get a lot of free media coverage when you're running for president. I mean, look at Donald Trump. Billions of dollars in free media coverage. But it does still mean something. And it is still important, just not as important as the people in Washington tend to think. Now, look, Michelle Obama. One more thing on her. I like Michelle Obama. I don't have any issue with her. That doesn't mean I want her to run for president. What are her policies? What are her positions on banking reform? What are her positions on the minimum wage? What are her positions on trade? We don't necessarily know. I would assume that it's pretty close to her husband, but as I said, we don't know. Aside from fitness, I don't know what she stands for. Lovely person, but I don't want her to run. I have no desire to see her run, and look, she has no desire to see her run. So to see Chris Cillizza to put her on the list seems a little strange. But it's a little stranger who they left off the list. And that was, of course, Bernie Sanders. They left him off the list. Okay, so look, maybe there's a reason. He will be 79 years old. He's getting up there. Now, personally, I don't really care. I'd still vote for him anyway. I will, I'd help wheel him to the White House steps. I don't care. I would vote for him if he ran in 2020, and I hope he does. And he has actually came out and said, well, I'm not discounting running in 2020. I mean, I might. Maybe. It's a long time. No, 4 years is a long time, that's for sure. But as I said, anything's possible when it comes to that, man. Now, the other person they left off, and this will be controversial to you guys, I know how you guys feel about Elizabeth Warren, right? Now, look, a lot of progressives not happy with Elizabeth Warren. I understand. She's a sellout. She supported Hillary. She didn't support Bernie Sanders when it counts. All that shit's valid. Trust me. I know. Well, so she did. So because she went to back Hillary Clinton instead of Bernie Sanders, well, that should make her an obvious pick for the establishment, right? Since she backed the establishment line and supported Hillary Clinton. Well, that would make her an obvious pick, right? Well, no, of course not. She's left off this list because the establishment despises her and despises progressives. And because she actually does fight for progressive values. Not all of them. She's not perfect. In fact, I'm going to call her out for not supporting the Dakota Access Pipeline or the people, the water protectors. I'm going to call her out for that. She has not been saying anything about the water protectors. Bernie Sanders has been out there. Where's Elizabeth Warren? Where's Obama? Where's all of those people? But anyway, again to the main point here, okay? Look, pretty much everyone on this list is a mainstream corporate Democrat that's pretty much only being considered because of the fact that they can raise money and they've got celebrity. So it's not about winning on issues anymore for the Democratic Party. They don't play that game anymore. No, the only thing that they're playing now is that we've got to please the donors. So what they'll do is that they'll put up weak Democrats that will either lose to Republicans, or they'll get in there and they'll do everything the corporations and the donors want them to do. Either way, the donors win. And that's what we have. Now, you tell somebody like Chris Ellison that, he's like, come on, man, you don't know. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You got it completely wrong, completely wrong. Well, that's because, not because Chris Ellison is a bad person. It's because he doesn't see it. He's blind to this. He is inside the Washington bubble. He hobnobs with these people. He talks to them. He knows them. They're inside sources, et cetera, right? He's around this kind of groupthink, and he's susceptible to it. That happens when you're right there. And in that group, all you hear about is how much money can you raise and how much star power can you bring to the table. That's what this is. That's what the metrics that they have. And in so doing, they discount the lessons of Bernie Sanders, who actually did spark a fire in the hearts of people, everyday people all over the country from all different walks of life. And sadly, they will ignore the lessons of Bernie Sanders, and they do so at their own peril. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.